Hello and welcome to Some of My Friends Read Comics. We've got Chris.
Oh,
We've got Vince.
I told you this was a bad idea. We should have just cut Archie in half.
And I'm Kia. Hello. Welcome to the show, everybody. Chris, what was that sound?
that was Salem, the cat from Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
Very good, very good.
Voiced by Nick Bakay on the TV show, famous sports writer in the mid-90s.
Was he really?
Yeah, he did
have that sort of drab, sort of sports writery voice to him. That's kind of funny.
He had a column in ESPN the magazine. I'm sure he had other things, but...
Today we are talking about Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Don't worry, not the TGIF show. Although I'm sure we all loved it as a child. I know I watched plenty of that show.
I watched a lot of it.
Yeah, Melissa Joan Hart, gotta love her. She was a great Sabrina. She was my first Sabrina. She was my first Clarissa, and then my first Sabrina. And I never even knew that she came from an Archie comic. I guess I'd probably seen it somewhere, but hadn't really retained that information. And a few years back, Archie Comics had this pretty successful relaunch of Afterlife with Archie, which was just Archie fighting zombies, and it was a lot of fun, and it was very successful. And so they decided to do another one, which was a relaunch of Sabrina the Teenage Witch, but as an actual horror comic. So that's what we're reading today, The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. We read the first story arc, the first 5 issues, and first thing we got to say off the bat, this thing is actually like a scary horror comic. It is terrifying. It's written by Roberto Aguirre Sacasa, I think I'm saying that right, who I always remember from Marvel as just kind of writing a lot of ho-hum whatever sort of stuff, like the least important Fantastic Four book and the least important Spider-Man book and that kind of thing.
Did he write Marvel Knights 4?
Yeah, that's what he was writing.
Yeah, I was
alongside the main Fantastic Four series, and yeah, kind of weird.
Because I remember when you recommended this to me a few years ago, I'm like, I thought all of his books were kind of like C-tier books, and then I'm like, I'm not reading Sabrina the Teenage Witch book. Like, come on, Kia.
Yeah.
But he also was doing a lot of he also did a lot of TV. I can't remember anything offhand. I know he does Riverdale now, but he also did a lot of TV shows.
He wrote some episodes for Glee and Big Love, I think. Yeah. Which I've never seen any Big Love, but Glee, you can kind of tell, has that same sort of campy high school vibe that Archie might sort of be going for. I haven't seen Riverdale either, but now I really want to.
I started watching it. It's good.
Good?
It's Aguirre Sacasa is the showrunner of it. Mm-hmm. And it is similarly dark. They're all investigating a murder mystery, so it's a little like Veronica Mars. It's a CW show. Don't get me wrong.
Okay,
it's a teen show.
I'm fine with that.
But it's
Is it Miss Grundy? It's one of these people is having an affair with a student.
Yeah,
and it's very disturbing to even think about that.
But there's hints even in that Riverdale show, at least from the first 2 episodes. There may be something supernatural going on.
That's awesome. All right. Yeah. I mean, now we know they're doing a Sabrina show, so I'm a little excited to see where that goes. And also, we failed to mention that the main Archie series that was relaunched by Mark Waid a couple of years ago as well has also been just fire. Love it. So Archie, I don't know, all of a sudden in these last few years has just been doing it right. Really has just decided to not grow with the times little by little, but just make a big giant leap all at once. And I think they did a good job. Sabrina the Teenage Witch. We mentioned the writer, the art, Robert Hack, who has done some covers and stuff here and there. A few, Doctor Who covers, I think, a few other things, but nothing sort of major. And it's creepy. It's some of the creepiest artwork I've ever seen in a comic book. This is it's genuinely nightmare inducing.
He does he really sets the tone, just the way that his panel structure is, but just the way his line work is. And this is his first time ever doing interiors, so I don't understand.
I see. Okay. Yeah. I don't know how good for him. So I guess for a lot of people coming to this are maybe more familiar with the TV show, and so I guess we should say what's similar. She is being raised by her 2 aunts, Zelda and Hilda. They are actual witches, like eat people type witches, which I never realized that was a part of any witch mythology, that they ate people. But
I didn't realize that, and I guess I didn't. I mean, this book isn't doing like a full like occult thing, but they do legitimately say "Hail Satan" multiple times in this book.
Oh, they meet Satan in this book. Oh my god! Like, spoiler alert, we get to fucking Satan. Satan shows up, and like it's So there's a lot. Shit.
Yeah. So if you were thinking that, like, I like TGIF, I mean, there's a talking cat there and he's sassy. But plot lines like where Sabrina needs to sneak out of the house to go on a date, so she makes like a double of herself, but the spell only allows her to say 3 things, the robot double.
Oh my god.
Do you remember that episode?
I do remember that episode.
So the robot would say like, cool, or I don't know, what do you think? It's a good episode.
It's not really a robot, to be fair. It's more of a magical construct.
Sure, but it acts like a robot. It might as well have been an Urkel double. You know, yeah. It's the same damn thing. Oh boy, but yeah, this it's definitely not that. No, we're not gonna. Well, I mean, who knows? We did get some sneaking out type stuff in the middle of the night, like spells behind her aunt's back so that she could win the heart of Harvey. Harvey Kinkle is in this book, and that is her love interest. Also, I guess like a typical high school setting. I guess her backstory is the part that I don't know if they ever really went into super detail in the show, but her dad was a witch, or I guess a warlock, and her mother was a human, and so she is this half-breed. And I was thinking about this. It's always interesting. There are a lot of great half-breed protagonists in throughout different media, and it is sort of this very easy way of being able to show 2 different worlds, and then give that character to be both an underdog in both worlds and to sort of persevere in both worlds, which is a lot of great story opportunities. But yeah, Sabrina is like half witch, half human. She doesn't really know this, but her dad kind of went against witch law by dating a human, having a kid with her. The mother was trying to take the baby away, but the dad kind of fucked her over.
Yeah, this book, I think, is a masterclass in a first issue for any comic.
It really is. There's so much going on.
And it also sets the tone, like in its first 8 or so pages, of really saying, like, this is not the TGIF show you know. So it starts with, like, them having a birth, and what's the first thing? Oh, well, we're going to sacrifice this baby infant to Satan. Okay.
Yep.
And actually, all the parents are on board with this, including all the characters we love from the sitcom. Wait, what? And then the mom runs away, and it's like, oh, well, she's going to escape, and it'll be fine, and this happy end. No, the father, Sabrina's father, basically zaps her brain and turns her brain to mush. And instead of letting our favorite aunts from the TV show eat her, and we're like it immediately sets the tone, like, this is not the TV show. If you thought this was a TV show, it's not. And so get out now. If you're not on board with this. And so I really like that it just establishes, like, from the beginning. And then, like, your first real image of Sabrina is, like, as a 6-year-old throwing a temper tantrum with, like, blood coming out of her eyes, like Exorcist style type of just, like, weird things. And I'm like, this is not what I was expecting at all. And it's really moody and it's scary. And I think the reason this book is so interesting to me is there's no wins for any of the characters in this entire book. Like, Sabrina never wins. Like, it's every single minor victory is also, like, a huge loss. Like, the mom, she's not going to escape, even, and then you flip to, like, Sabrina's a kid. It's like, why isn't my dad here anymore? It's like, oh, well, he fucked up witch law, so we turned him into a tree. We're not going to tell you that. But it's like, oh, fuck.
Yeah, we wish you could be here for your birthday. Sorry.
And so Zelda and Hilda are like, fuck you. We don't like you, kid. It's really good.
And it does. I mean, it does it in a way that it fits in with what you know about Sabrina in a really weird way.
Yeah.
Where it feels like this is the true story of, like the TGIF show or the comic or whatever. Because, like, you do know, like, oh, she lives with her aunts. And, like, where's her dad? I don't know. Like, she's half human. What's the deal with that? And that it's this, like, really weird, Rosemary's Baby situation where her father made a pact with Satan or whatever. It's like, oh, yeah, we didn't mention that stuff.
Yeah, the whole time you're sitting there, you're reading it, and it's like, oh, this totally could fit into the existing everything I know. The only difference is that we failed to mention this takes place in the '60s, and so like just sort of all those old school uniforms, the sort of the everything about the way he does the art and draws it all, very just that classic old timey classic American family sort of look.
So it's got Archie clothes styles. Like classic,
Yes,
like Archie
yes.
comic clothes styles. Now, obviously, the art
Yes.
style is not depicting that, but and to the point where, and I love this thing, is that Betty and Veronica are witches from Riverdale.
Yes, they show up fairly regularly too. I was
Yeah.
surprised. It was just like they're like aspiring amateur witches
Well,
who live in the next town over.
Yeah, they're just like shitty. Yeah, they're shitty witches though. Like
They're
like,
shitty
you know how
witches.
there were like high school girls that were like, well, I'm in the Wicca, after seeing Charmed too many times. Like that's what they are.
Yeah,
But
the basically the main bad guy for this whole arc, this whole series, it seems, is brought to life by Betty and Veronica, who are just fucking up a revival spell out in the swamp
I
somewhere.
think they were trying to make like another Archie or something, so they could both date Archie or something stupid like that.
Let's skip right to that because that's one of the most probably the scariest thing in this book is the character of Madame Satan is her name, aka what's her real name, Eola, something like that. So this lady gets brought back to life, and she like instantly is like naked, eating deer out in the field, has skulls for eyes. Like the whole first half of the second issue is just her waking up and like fucking shit up for everybody. And we find out that she was Edward Spellman, Sabrina's dad, Edward's first love, and she was supposed to marry Edward, but then he fell in love with this human woman, and she got spurned, and so she commits suicide. Like she throws herself into a pit of lions at the zoo, and she is living in hell for all of damnation until they bring her back to life, and now she is going to seek her revenge on everybody involved, which it's a pretty good story, I think. Pretty good revenge story.
And the way she like does it is she hitches a ride and then finds out that their truck driver's a rapist because she talks to ghosts, and so she like just like brutally murders him. And then she goes.
Oh,
to,
but
like,
how did she get picked up by the truck driver? She had to be pretty first, right?
Yeah.
So she stole a pretty woman's face.
Yeah, so she went to like a children's like sleepaway camp, and it was like, I'm gonna start like singing a song, and whatever kid wakes up first, that's the one I'm going to murder. And I'm like, the fuck?
Like, yeah, if you thought the first issue was dark, the second issue was just like.
She's like, she just rips the face off a 12-year-old girl, or however old that kid was. I'm just like, fucking A. Like I've read horror comics before, and they're like unsettling, kinda, but like this one's unsettling.
Yeah, it just does it. It just does it.
Well,
So-
and the art does a really good job of referencing, I think it's more of a like Friday the 13th vibe with some of the, or Sleepaway Camp or one of those things. But it does such a good job of referencing like Rosemary's Baby and The Omen and like these 60s and 70s films. So, you get that sort of unnerving feel in a lot of it. And they talked about it a little bit in the introduction to the trade. They intentionally, there's a lot more of, I don't know what to call it. I mean, I wouldn't call it so much body horror, but like, because of so many of the characters are women, there's a lot of like, oh, isn't this a sexy character? Oh, but they're actually super gross.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. There's a few moments where there's a lot of witch dances, and the witch dancing is never sexy. It's always just very purposefully like odd and like very disjointed in a very strange way, which I really appreciate. Like it doesn't try to glorify it,
Yeah, I just I just saw The Shining for the first time, and it like reminded me a lot of like the pretty naked girl in the bathtub suddenly turns like into this like weird creepy monster like the second the face turns, and like that's a lot of what this book does, and that has a really great scene with Harvey Kinkle later in like issue 4. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. So she murders Edward Spellman's tree.
Yeah, like burns the tree. Yeah.
And then
she goes to Diana, the human
Sabrina's
wife.
mom.
Yeah, and she is in the it's like Hearthstone Mental Asylum or something. Good game, play it. Anyways, they're hanging out.
And she's got like lobotomy scars.
Yeah,
Poor
she's
girl.
got tons of lobotomy scars. She's just like this crazy fucking vegetable. But she, of course, reveals her true face to Diana and feels such pity on her that she's not going to kill her, but she is going to make her suffer by making her brain work completely fine while she's there, so that she's kind of trapped in there, but aware of everything instead of
Yeah.
being fucking
Yeah, well
crazy.
now she like I couldn't tell if like she's completely healthy or just her brain works like in her fucked up body.
Right,
Which is kind of
right.
darker than like, well, there's no reason why you would suddenly be better like after everything we did to you. Like there's something
Mm.
clearly like you're clearly crazy and you're talking about like this evil witch woman. Like that's just like the extra like Twilight Zone-y like torture that like you would do to a character, you know? Like it's like this would be a happy ending, except it's not. Like this will not. This is what you want. It's a very monkey's paw situation. It's not going to work out for you though.
And I know,
Uh,
I mean, I know she's the bad guy, and she calls herself Madam Satan and all, but it is pretty shitty. I think clearly Edward Spellman is the villain in this scenario.
I think you are right. Yeah, she's a woman scorned. Poor thing.
Like, I don't think that this human woman who got seduced by this witch and then had his kid is equally complicit, and it's kind of bullshit to be like, I'm gonna punish you anyway because I don't like you because you stole my boyfriend. It's like, okay, that's kind of you're turning women against each other, Madam Satan, and you really need to be better than that.
Yeah, Madam Satan. She's got some morality issues, I think.
The trade has an old 1941 like really early appearance of Madam Satan. Like she is a legit Archie Comics character before they were called Archie Comics.
They printed those in the back of all the individual issues as well.
Oh, really?
Not all, but it is in the individual issues. Yeah, even the like the classic the Archie reboot. They've been printing a lot of old Archie comics in the back there, which is like I'm never gonna go fucking pick up an Archie comic. But then when you read about the history of it first, and then you read like this classic strip about it, it's kind of neat. It gives it a different lens to which.
Yeah,
you
because
can,
I'm not going to
view
seek out a 1941 Madam Satan
Right,
comic.
right.
But it's good.
Yeah. So as she's leaving this mental asylum, she thinks her job is done, but then she finds out about Sabrina, and she's like, "Oh, all right. Well, I guess I'm gonna go torture this girl
More
now."
people to torture.
Yeah. And she goes and basically just murders their drama teacher and fills in for the new drama teacher there.
Yeah, but like in a real fucked up way again, she does that because the drama teacher is like just like this old spinster who's like in her like 50s who's never kissed a man and she just watches a lot of romance films, and Madam Satan like kind of flirts with her and like the drama she's like, well, maybe I could be into this, and she kisses her and puts her in a coma and gives her a stroke.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Poor
fucking
thing.
like,
Adam Satan is fucked up. Oh man. Yeah. So then now that the old director's in a coma, she can be the new one. No, and it's perfect because Sabrina has auditioned for the role of the main character in Bye Bye Birdie. I forget her name. And Harvey is going to be the male lead, and the two of them, they're going to get to be leads together. Yeah. We didn't really mention they got together pretty quick in issue like one or two, somewhere around there.
She cast a spell.
Lastel, yeah.
And that's
but it
where
wasn't like a forced romance. It was like meant to be like, okay, it'll nudge him in your direction. But if he's not into it, he's just not into it.
Yeah, but it was like write his name counterclockwise on this piece of paper and spit on it and then do that. And I was like, it was the thing is like this book weaves in like Archie comics, Sabrina the Teenage Witch, like TGIF plots, and then has a really dark undercurrent with them. Do you know what I'm saying? Like it does it really, like it does it really well. Like I feel like I'm saying like this sounds stupid, but it's like I'm really impressed by how well this book does those kind of things.
It's so good. It's
Right.
like the only reason I
mean,
laugh is because of how like I can't believe this works. It's just so damn like I can't. It's so good. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's like it's like, oh, okay, well, we're gonna still have these like teenager like, oh, how can I get the cute boy to notice me plots? But it's like, but also like Satan wants his name written in his book.
Yes.
It's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. So that's issue 3. It's like Sabrina is coming of age, and she has like this big ceremony coming up where you're gonna write your name in Satan's book, and that means you're gonna be married to Satan, I guess.
It's like confirmation
I
for Catholic kids.
Yeah, exactly. I remember in the
not
TV show, she turned 16 in the first episode, and that's when she gets witch powers because they'd been keeping it a secret from her up to that point. So obviously, it's very different.
It's very different.
But yeah, it is a very like confirmation-y vibe where she has to wear like this white dress and give herself to Satan, I guess.
She's gonna ride this goat, side saddle, of course. I like that line a lot. It was like, oh, okay, that's a weird thing.
Actually, and the way that this is done is really cool from like a storytelling perspective, because it starts with a flashback. This book jumps back and forth in time. It starts with a flashback of like Sabrina like at 11 or 12 asking about the witch ceremony, like in her confirmation ceremony. And the whole rest of the issue is done with Zelda or Hilda's narration of what's going to happen in this event while it's showing it in the quote-unquote present day of it actually happening with Sabrina on the eve of her 16th birthday. So it's just a really cool like way that we're hearing how it's going to happen 5 years earlier, and then watching it play out with that narration. It's really, really weird, but really well done.
Yeah. And all the while, Harvey just wants to get his dick wet. This poor guy, he is just like, Sabrina, come on, let's do it. How about tonight? And she's like, I got this family thing, and
but he's
you kind of can't come.
Yeah, and then like Madam Satan is like, what's she doing? Is she going out in the woods? I bet she's cheating on you, Harvey. Like, you should go follow her.
Yeah, you got to go check this out. You got to make sure nothing's going on.
And then and there's a great little moment where she's like, I need to find out where this fucking altar is. And so she turns, I don't know who, into a crow. She kills somebody and turns him into a crow.
Yeah, she kills somebody like at a bar, I think. Like, she kills a lot of people, and one of them becomes her animal familiar. We'll get to the animal familiars later, but
she's like, go look out in the woods and go try to see if you can go find this symbol on like a piece of stone. And the crow is like, well, I'll be damned. Like, it was here. I don't know why that made me chuckle.
I remember that gave me pause as well. I was like, oh, yeah, shit. All right, here we go.
Yeah. I still hear like Salem the cat in his Sabrina the Teenage Witch character voice, and Hilda too, because Carolyn Ray, I remember her character so well.
I remember her quite distinctly, yeah.
So like with those characters, I would hear their voice, and when the crow talks, I heard him being just this like goobery guy.
Yeah, that guy was that guy's great. So we get to this actual ceremony, and I think this is probably the most terrifying part of the whole thing, because this is where Satan shows up, and he has he's this giant fucking goat man. He has this huge book that Sabrina is going to sign after she's like gone through this ritual. She's covered in blood, and guess who fucking shows up? It's Harvey. It's like, Sabrina, what the hell are you doing? And it's a perfect record scratch moment for the cliffhanger for the show, where everyone's like, who the fuck is this human encroaching on our ceremony? What is this? Yeah, and then issue 4, they chase him. Sabrina's in fucking trouble. She's like trapped in some vines. And she says, no, let me go. I can explain everything. It's okay. I can take care of this. It's no big deal. It's not like I told him I was going to be here. I specifically didn't. Don't worry. And they're like, all right, cool. Go fix this. And it doesn't matter if she's too late, because the other witches caught him and straight up ate him. Yeah. And Harvey Kinkle is dead. But
this issue also spends like a good portion of its runtime like telling a short story about Harvey being scared in the woods after finding some porno mags in the woods, and also similarly running in the woods. And that time he escaped. And I'm like, this book is taking a detour that's not necessary to the plot at all, and it's fucking Harvey Kinkle. Like, who gives a shit? And yet, it's very interesting, and I like it.
It works very well.
And this whole book is just like a series of, this shouldn't work. And it does.
Well, I think that moment especially, it's like, all right, why are we getting a Harvey moment so early? And then it's like, oh, because he's dying, and this was our last chance to get a Harvey moment. Okay, cool, he's done. It kind of, I feel like, not necessarily the shock value, but I guess a little bit. I was surprised they would kill off a main character so early in the story, and so I really appreciated that.
Yeah,
I felt like after that, this book could do anything.
Yeah, and again, it does such a good job of like, at least I know from the TV show that it was like a 7-year, like, will they, won't they? Like, she dated Harvey, but then, like, she has to break up with him because whatever plot reasons. She has to take her, like, witch's masters or whatever it was. But yeah, this, I mean, it's just literally like, well, he's dead now, which, and I did like, it's a subtle thing, but I do like the sort of vibe of like, there's a bunch of like true crime from the 60s, and maybe it's a little overplayed, but I think it's really interesting that, they use this sort of real fear that, you could just run into some teenagers in the woods with a switchblade or whatever. And that's what Harvey, has a fear of in the woods. And then to literally, he's eaten by a witch because he's the stupidest man in the world. And he sees a vision of Sabrina and is like, don't you want a grown-up kiss? And he's like, gulp.
Gulp, yeah. And it's a witch. And yeah, poor guy. So in this next issue, Harvey is dead. Everyone is heartbroken. We get that he was delicious. That's such a great line, too, from the other witches who just, like, do not give a shit about Sabrina's feelings. Like, yeah, your boyfriend was delicious. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, and even Sabrina and Hilda, like, you done fucked up, girl. And there's a great panel where she's, like, looking at them, and then it's just a flash panel of, like, oh, yeah, these girls are monsters. Like, like, literal monsters. And I'm like, yeah. I like Zelda. I like Zelda and Hilda a lot in this book.
I do, too. They're great. Yeah. We get so this is where so first off, this is like the perfect time for Madam Satan, aka the fake theater teacher, to swoop in and say like, hey, look, I can help you bring Harvey back, and kind of reveals herself to also be a witch. First off, they have to help Sabrina get past this witch trial, because I guess she's in trouble for having revealed the witches to Harvey, even though she didn't.
Well, she invited a mortal, but she's got to prove that she didn't invite a mortal.
Right. And so they kind of help her get through that, again, with Betty and Veronica, where whatever pain she's going to endure gets endured by Betty instead, or maybe Veronica, I don't remember.
Yeah, they both do it.
They both
do. And also, Veronica in this book is just Betty Page. Like, it's just the Rocketeer Dave Stevens had the idea first of like, oh, I'll just put Betty Page like photo references into my comic. This, like, Veronica in this book is just Betty Page from the 60s.
You're right. Yeah, it's just such a classic look that I wasn't even thinking about it. I was like, oh yeah, she's got that look, but yeah, you're right. It really is just. So she gets past this witch trial.
Which she has to put her hands like in and
like
hot coals, and like, then get the stigmata.
Yeah, through her hand.
And it's Aleister Crowley from Promethea.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's.
It's also and other things.
Also from real life.
Also from real life.
There's a lot of people from real life in this, especially in issue 6, which you guys didn't read. I'll talk about that a little bit.
Guy that I forget who from Led Zeppelin bought his house just to say that he owned it.
What?
Yeah, Aleister Crowley's house. Somebody from Led Zeppelin just bought it. I think it was Led Zeppelin. It was one of those 60s hippie bands.
Yeah, they'd be into that.
The hippie bands with their rock and roll.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they embrace Satan in their backwards playing music.
Oh, how dare they? Oh my God! Never let your children listen to that music, folks. It's the devil's worship. Anyways, so after she gets cleared of all of her witch trial stuff, she also does this kind of shitty thing at the end of the witch trial where they're like, "All right, I guess you're fine." And she says, "Hey, by the way, isn't there a little rule that says once I've been tried for a crime, I can't be tried again?" Okay, cool, thanks. Just wanted to clear that up. Why would you bring that up at the trial?
Because because she's going to revive Harvey and then maybe invite him to something else. I don't know. It's like that movie Double Jeopardy with Ashley Judd and Tommy Lee Jones.
It's exactly like
Chris.
That movie.
Chris, is that legal, by the way?
Yes.
So if you do your time for murdering somebody, but they're not actually dead, and then you find out they're not actually dead, you can murder them and you'll be off scot-free because you already did your time.
One free murder.
Well, that's good to know. All right. Jeez. All right. Cool.
It's not legal advice. I'm not endorsing committing a crime.
Oh, all right.
But if
Double
you
check
are-
with LegalZoom, I guess. Um, so they decide to bring Harvey back to life together, which they go through the whole ritual. It's another creepy sort of witch thing, and you're wondering if it worked. And Sabrina's like sitting up waiting for him.
I like
and
that it's
Harvey,
like set up. It's like a 3-day wait too. It's
yeah,
not
it's like
instant.
a long wait.
Which is really cool. Like it allows like the pages to breathe a little. Be like, okay, he's gonna be coming in 3 days. I mean, it's all done in a page, but I really liked the panels. Like, well, day 1, I just went out for smoothies. Day 2, I went bowling. And day 3, I'm just chilling.
Mm-hmm.
I like it.
Yeah, it worked well. And like we see these visions of these images of Harvey's parents who were, grieving. The mother still is setting a table for Harvey, hoping he'll come home. And this is the night when he is coming home. And the dad is like, "No, don't go out there. Like, that's not going to be our son." And the mother's losing it because somebody's knocking at the door. And the mother loses it so much that she straight up murders her husband with the lamp. And that was like a weird turn for me because did I miss something? Was there something magical that influenced her to go even crazier to the point of murdering her husband?
Yeah, I can't tell if it was like realistic or like there was an extra spell on there. I couldn't tell that.
It was like fucked up.
Yeah.
And Harvey comes in and it's like, "Oh, Harvey, you're home." And boy, big old cliffhanger here. Harvey doesn't live here anymore. Edward Spellman has moved in. Oh shit! Madam Satan fucked Sabrina over. Her dad is now in her boyfriend's body, and that is some creepy fucking shit.
Yeah, no thank you.
That is creepy as hell. I have no idea where the story is going to go from here, and I kind of don't want to know because that is like
Because it's going to take 5 years to tell you.
Well, yeah, it really will. Yeah, so one thing we didn't mention is the horrible release schedule on this thing. We read the first 5 issues. There are only 8 issues out so far, and it started in 2014. It has been coming out slow. And, Roberto, he's a busy man. The art is beautiful, probably takes a little while. It's well worth the wait.
He's apparently, it's the same with Afterlife with Archie, which isn't canceled. It's still going. He writes that, and I was like, okay, cool. I'll get the Afterlife with Archie trade. Then I saw, there's 2 of them. So I was like, well, there's one published in 2014 and one published in 2018. I go,
Oh, I see.
well, for 10 issues. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it's taken a while. But, like I said, worth the wait. So I'll talk a little bit about issue number 6 because it's a one-off, and it's been out for a while, but mostly because we didn't talk about the familiars. Salem is in this. Also, we didn't talk about this other character who shows up, who is Sabrina's cousin from England, who got in some trouble overseas, and so he's moved to America to kind of hide under the radar a little bit. And he's got a couple of familiars too. It's 2 snakes, Nag and Nagaina, and Nagaina. There we go. And there's a fun little Easter egg, as they call them, where they were a gift from Uncle Rudyard. And I was like, oh, very nice. And we get issue 6 is all about their origin story and Salem's origin story, which is it's 2 just little short, creepy as fuck stories. They're really good. It turns out they actually did get traded eventually after turning into snakes to Rudyard Kipling. And so he eventually makes his way to whoever. And Salem actually has a lot to do with the Salem witch trials, which is pretty interesting. 2 good stories. I won't spoil them for you, though. They're very enjoyable. But yeah.
Yeah, which I think wasn't that
Hold
also
on, there's a werewolf outside. All right, the witches ate it. Never mind, we're okay.
Wasn't that also in the TGIF show that Salem always had grand explanations of why he had been turned into a cat?
Yeah, that was true. I don't think he ever. I think he was an unreliable character too, because it kept changing.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
He was the Joker before Heath Ledger was, I guess.
You want to know how I turned into a cat? My old man, he was real mad.
No, you want to know how I got these claws? That's the you want to know how I got these claws. So it's,
I
it's
got
a
these
great
paws.
pause. God damn. All right, we're done. We're done with that. And so issues 7 and 8 also just came out, but it's supposed to start a 6-issue long arc. So I'm like, well, do I wait until the whole thing is out 5 years from now, or do I just
Is
start
that
now?
the Witches of Greendale versus the Witches of Riverdale?
Well, it's called Witch War, and so I'm
Yeah.
not sure. It might be.
Yeah, it's really fun. I want a Beasts of Burden crossover to come out in like 5 years.
That would work really well. Yeah, they have a similar kind of vibe to them. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Salem can I don't know, somehow be involved with those dogs and cats.
Oh shit, that would be so good.
Yeah. And put some snakes in there. It all makes sense.
Oh, yeah. And there's the one witch cat that's like their friend, and they could basically I guess fight Salem, because I guess Salem would be the villain of this story. But yeah, it's a really interesting. I think it does such a good job of using your at least passing familiarity with this kinds of story and like Archie comics and these kinds of things. There is literally a scene of Betty and Veronica drinking a milkshake with Archie, but there's also like we've said, a demon creature with skulls for eyes stealing someone's face, stealing a preteen's face.
Oh, poor preteens.
Yeah, it shouldn't work nearly as well as it does, and it's it's real good. Like it's the best horror comic I've ever read. Like, not ironically.
I agree with that. Horror comics I've found difficult because either the story is kind of just there to like go along with the creepy pictures, or the pictures are kind of there to go with what would essentially be a prose story. And I've never seen one work quite as well as this. So that's I think that's saying a lot, but it does such a good job at what it's trying to do. So Roberto, you're forgiven for Sensational Spider-Man or whatever the fuck you would have written back when. And Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, boy, this is great. Oh, I was looking him up. He has written a shit ton of plays as well, a bunch of plays that are like published by dramatists. And including some horror ones. And so I'm like, man, this guy's all over the map.
That's where I was reading, that's where he said he got a lot of this like witch stuff from, as he'd already done research for his plays. So he already kind of knew about the like witchcraft and the occult.
Yeah, I mean, I have to read some of these. I'm into this guy now.
I can tell that it's at least well researched as far as this crazy made up stuff is, because I watched for my other podcast, if I could plug it for a moment, for Your Stupid Minds, we did The Devil Rides Out, which is a Hammer film from I think the late 60s, early 70s, but it's actually really good. It's Christopher Lee is a good guy who he basically shows up at a party and is like, hey, there's Satanists here, and finds out that like his I forget how he knew him. It was like his friend's son from the war or whatever has thrown in with some Satanists, and he's like, that's not cool. So he has this elaborate scheme where he's like rescuing his pals from Satanists.
Oh no.
It's really fun. Like it's
funny.
There's definitely a scene where I forget if he drives off the road or what happens, but there's definitely like a 10-foot tall puppet devil.
All right. Okay.
It reminded me of the scene where they meet the devil in the woods, and he's like, sign your name in my book. There's a scene where they're having a meeting in the woods, and Christopher Lee and his buddy who goes around punching Satanists, which rules. They just drive their car into the middle of it and just like start a fight with these Satanists. It's awesome.
What's the name of this movie again?
The Devil Rides Out. There's a great scene where the guy who punches everything is driving his car to follow this woman, and the Satanist casts a spell that like fogs up his mirrors, and he just punches through his windshield.
Sounds like my kind of movie.
I'm down for some more Christopher Lee Hammer films that aren't Dracula films, because those are good too. But,
yeah, it's really fun, and they never address like Christopher Lee's character knows so much. You keep being like you're evil, right? You're Christopher Lee.
Oh boy!
So check out Your Stupid Minds to know more about that.
Yeah. Cool. So, fun stuff. I'm definitely going to be reading this. Again, can't decide if I'm going to wait till the whole trades come out or just read them by one.
Yeah,
We'll see.
I'm at that point too. I do have a question though.
Oh.
I'm going to read Afterlife with Archie now. I don't know about you
I
guys.
think I'm going to have to as well. Yeah. The more I just learn about this guy, I'm like, yeah, Afterlife. How many issues of that are out so far? Like 10, 11?
There's one trade of it. I think it's either 5 or 6 issues. It starts with Jughead's dog dying and then him trying to revive it, and then a full-scale zombie invasion happens.
Oh.
So, and somehow Sabrina ends up as the bride of Cthulhu. So,
Wow. I'm into that.
It's a unrelated universe, I guess. I mean, it's still the
not
Archie
canonical
world.
with this one.
it's modern day as opposed to 1960s, which this is.
All right, fair. Cool.
But the second trade is scheduled to come out in December 2018. So,
Oh boy, we got a ways to go. All right. But what doesn't have a ways to go is our next episode. Hey, you can go back for some more of us soon, right? Hey, guess what's coming out soon in theaters? I'm pretty excited for this. It's Thor, Ragnarok. I'm into it. So we're going to read some Thor, and we're going to read some classic Thor by Walt Simonson. Maybe one of the most important people to write some Thor. We are going to read his first arc, which took place in issues 337 to 343 from 1984. Walt Simonson wrote and drew all these. And Chris, you've read all these, right?
Yes. And
Yes.
I've also met Walt Simonson. He's a cool dude.
Aw, cool guy. I'm into it. He seems like a very nice guy. But yeah, Vince and I have always heard that his stuff is supposed to be the best on Thor. I think we've probably heard that from you, Chris. And yeah, we read his Fantastic Four a while back. We're excited to get into this, as well as the introduction of Beta Ray Bill, a pretty cool Thor character. And yeah, so join us for that. And boy, anything else we got to say? I think that might be it.
That's it.
Cool. Well, hey, thanks for listening. We love you so much. Vince, I love you.
You're welcome. I mean, I love you too.
Thanks. God damn it. Chris, I love you.
Don't listen to rock music, kids. It will turn you into a Satanist.
Oh, my love for Chris has been scorned. I am going to throw myself to the lions and then come back and murder everyone he loves. And so join us next time to see how
the
that
joke's on you.
All right. Good night, everybody. Bye.